Hello, welcome. Make sure that you are following and unmuting right there. Now I can get that out of the way. So, I have been getting feedback that people would like to know who I am and what qualifies me to be teaching you anything at all. I haven't realized in all the videos I have done, if you've caught my videos, I dive right into the fundamentals of being human and of how our consciousness operates. I deliver lots and lots of information and lots of my firsthand experiences, but I've neglected to share with you who I am, what makes me tick. Why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? So that's why I came on today, was to really introduce the human side. If I am in fact teaching people the fundamentals of being human, then it might be in my best interest to introduce the human that I am, Keith, and what makes me tick, so that you understand that I am a human being just like you, and that what I impart in my videos and through my program, the Found Fun Discovery Method, comes from a human being that has lived a very interesting life and has gained a lot of insight through that firsthand experience about how we as humans operate. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. I love that I can be so candid because it's all about me. You would think that that would be the easiest subject to do a video on. But is it? I can be honest in saying that it does feel a little uncomfortable to talk about myself, but that's what I'm here for. Let me fix my hair, make sure I'm up and up. Get rid of that picture. You might have saw this earlier. I'm an Aquarius, and Aquariuses are the most honest air signs. I know I spend way too much time trying to discern how honest a person is being with me, whether they're telling me the whole truth, part of the truth, their truth, somebody else's truth. It's all relative, right? So I'm sharing this with you so that maybe you can feel a little bit more comfortable that what I'm sharing with you is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. A lot of times in my videos, I show a picture of Morpheus, this guy right here. If you watch any of my other videos, when I introduce myself, I say, I'm Morpheus to your Neo. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. That's in my bones. That's who I am as an Aquarius. If you know an Aquarius, we can be quirky, different, out of the box, very, very unique. Dare I say, one of a kind. All right. 3 qualifications for being your self-awareness coach. That's not supposed to be up there. Here we go. People don't care. You've probably heard this before. People don't care how much you know, note to self, until they know how much you care. One of the best ways I discern how much a person cares is how open, honest, and real they're being with me. That tends to be a sign of somebody that really cares because they're putting it all on the line. They're not holding back. They're not keeping secrets. They're not pretending to be something that they're really not. They're just being themselves, unabashedly. And us Aquariuses love to do that, sometimes to a fault. So you've probably heard that before, but I'm here today with the intention to show you how much I care. And the motivation behind that, the impetus for why I got into what I got into. So let's dive into this. Let's explore. I don't have my Let's Explore mug. Give me 1 second. You got to see this. only because I use it in every video. It's kind of my prop. So I wanted to make sure you saw it. Let's explore what's going on there. Always something, right? That's the title. All right. Let's explore what qualifies Keith to coach others in the fundamentals of being human. Why should you listen to me about anything at all? Or am I just another talking head out of the, what is it, 200 million talking heads on Facebook? I am going to share. I'll be sharing 3 things that qualify me to be your self-awareness coach. At least 3 things that I believe qualify me to be your self-awareness coach. One of the things that I truly believe in and teach others is something that I learned was called self-referral. And I've taken that on fully. And now I impart that viewpoint on other people. When you're self-referral in life, who do you look to for the answers? Who do you look to for validation? Who do you look to for fulfillment and satisfaction and love? Well, when you're self-referral, you look to yourself. So in essence, why I may not have a PhD, a DDT, DSD, BBZZ, YT to the 3rd power title after my name, I'm self-certified. I don't need some external agency. It's just a racket anyway. It's a way to collect money and put out the air that there is some sort of scrutiny going on behind the scenes, like the Bar Association. I didn't come on here to criticize associations or accrediting agencies. I simply came on here to make it a point for you to realize I am self-certified and that you too can be self-certified. Who else knows more about you than you and what you're qualified and what you believe you're capable of handling in life? Just because you passed a bunch of tests and paid a lot of money to some third party so that you could have some little plaque on the wall or some little set of letters after your name doesn't necessarily mean anything at all at the end of the day. There are plenty of certified, credentialed people that make mistakes all the time. So just a little side note there, I am self-certified, and I will explain exactly how I've self-certified myself. Okay, a little bit more about me. But before we do that, just real quick, look, lots of work goes into these. And I love it when you can take the time to engage and make it a point to like my page, the Found Fun Discovery Method. Follow me on my profile and definitely send me a friend request if you're inspired to do so. And we'll connect that way. I also would appreciate it if you shared this with the right people. Obviously, it probably would make more sense to share some of my other videos on my page. And if they start asking, who is this guy, which a couple people have turned me on to realizing. And if that comes up, then you can share this video with them so that they can get a better sense of who I am as a person. And by all means, throw some love and likes and hearts and all that stuff down there. And we'll make it a regular old live party. And so you're not wasting your time. Understand that I truly value and appreciate your attention watching this video now. And as a way of reciprocating in that, I am picking 3 viewers to have a firsthand experience of a present moment perspective. That is at the foundation. It's the secondary foundation. The first foundation of my work is personal responsibility. I create my reality. It's where integrity comes from, right? And that also has to do with the whole external certification process, right? It's very easy to Not be in integrity, but be certified out here by other authorities. But when you're self-referral and you take personal responsibility, then your integrity is of the utmost importance. And to me, my integrity is of the utmost importance to me. I talk the talk, I talk the walk, I walk the talk. You know what I mean by that. Basically, if I'm saying it, it's because I believe it, because I experience it, and because that's that. So if you would like to get a complimentary firsthand experience of a present moment perspective, then I will ask you to drop a word down below. Drop found fun down below. That represents my whole program, which is the Found Fun Discovery Method. I actually have a whole little thing, but I don't have it set up yet to instruct you on how I want that done. But for right now, drop a comment and you're in. It's that simple. The first three, or I'll randomly scroll through and pick the first three to offer that to. And I'll send you a message with the details on how to redeem that so you can have a firsthand experience of what it is I've discovered being a human. Now, do you want to get into what old Keith here is all about and what he represents? Let's do that. I'll throw this up in the meantime. Welcome to the Found Fun Discovery Method. That is my course, if you will. It's more than a course. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of being that transcends consciousness. It transcends life. Life is material. And what we're talking about is behind the scenes, just like this video right now, which is me behind the scenes. So first of all, what do I want to share with you? I'm going to share this. If I throw that up and then I take that away, you can see no, we don't want to remove it. We want to hide it and then throw it back up there so you can see exactly what's going on. There we go. Bingo. Got to do a little shuffling of the slides here so that it makes sense and you can see the whole thing, because my little post-it notes over here get in the way sometimes. All right. Anyone can cook, but only the fearless can be great. Anyone know what that movie's from? It's one of my favorite movies. Ratatouille. Not Raccoony. Ratatouille. I originally was a chef. So my life story goes like this. As a child, I went through a very traumatic experience, which I will share with you later on, that really was the foundation of my desire to seek out the ultimate truth in life. I am a childhood survivor of gun violence, triple homicide to be precise. I was going to throw up a newspaper to show you the headlines, but it's not necessary. Yeah, if you really want those credentials, then send me a message and I'll make it a point to find that newspaper clipping so you can realize what I've gone through in my life. So that set me on the course to discover the ultimate truth of life, because basically what had happened to me made absolutely no sense at all. And if you, like too many human beings and Americans, have experienced trauma in your life, violence in your life, then you can totally relate to what I'm talking about right now. Let this bring you some assurance that you're not alone in that experience. If you happen to be one of the kids that was in school during one of those school shootings, or you witnessed something else violent like I did, it doesn't make sense. And it kind of won't ever make sense until you make sense of it. That's the best thing I can describe when it comes to being the survivor of violent crime such as that. It really throws you through a loop. You know, PTSD is a real thing. I have some of it sometimes, depending on the situation and what's going on. The more stress I'm under, the more it comes up. But I've got a pretty good handle on it. It's just a condition of unprocessed trauma. It's that simple. Um, so yes, I am the childhood survivor of gun violence. Fast forward, that just basically took my whole family away. Um, my parents and my grandmother were the victims. It left me and my sister all alone with our extended family. There happened to be a lot of money involved, so it immediately led to some pretty nasty infighting amongst my family over custody of us, the children, and of course, all the what would you call it? All the bonuses that came with us if you decided to be our guardians, like all the money that came our way through kind people that were um, outpouring through letters and donations, and then also through the perpetrator of the crime was uh, was killed by the police. He resisted arrest, and he wasn't going out unless it was in a blaze of glory. So his estate was also part of what we left with. Of course, anybody who's been in that situation can really fully understand that I would give everything up to have my parents back. But one of the most important things to realize about trauma in life is life is life is quite perfect in the way it operates. The fundamentals of being human are the closest we get to infallible here on earth. And so it takes a great degree of trust that what's happening to you is what needs to happen to you in order for you to grow and become the person that you decided to become in this life. And if what happened to me didn't happen to me, I probably wouldn't be on this video talking to you right now. That's how crucial it is. So it's quite literally when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade out of it. I've done that. And so, in many respects, I'm grateful for what I went through. I know it seems a little odd that somebody could be grateful to have experienced something like that, but you don't know until you've actually been there what it feels like to extrapolate value from a traumatic experience. It's a very redeeming quality. It's a very redeeming experience to have in life when you can turn something horrific into something wonderful in your life. I did that by choosing to coach and train people in self awareness, operating from a present moment perspective, which is where we discover our self awareness. Back then, didn't have a whole lot. In fact, I had a whole lot of questions and no answers. None. I'll never forget. I'm just going to open up right now. That experience that day, that morning. So it was in the morning at our house, no less. Invasion of the most sacred space in your life. We were, I was awakened by gunshots in my bedroom. I immediately closed the door and barricaded it with this tiny little nightstand that somebody that wanted to get in my bedroom would have no problem getting in my bedroom. Yet, for some odd reason, again, this is going back to trusting the universe and the perfection of its unfoldment, because my bedroom was the first bedroom that you would meet going down the hallway. But for some reason, the gunman passed my bedroom where the door was closed and moved on to my parents' bedroom. And so I've always looked at that like, what the heck? What's going on? How come I wasn't the first one to be shot on sight? You know, I was logically the first bedroom, so why not, you know? So something there was playing out that I'll never understand, that added a whole bunch of questions to the experience for me. At one point, I peeked out of my bedroom and I saw my father and the gunman were fighting. They were wrestling, it looked like. My father's like me. He's skinny and not very burly. This dude, Robert Lizelle Courtney, if you want to look it up, California, do your research, Kern County. And he was huge. He was like 200, 300 pounds, right? So I basically saw my dad being squashed underneath this behemoth of a man. And he was a slumlord, right? So he had those keys that are like the big wad of keys that, like a supervisor has on their belt. And for some reason, part of my trauma is that sound, like the, I can't even make the sound, but do you know, like a bunch of keys, the sound that they make? Well, that's like lodged in there somewhere. And very interesting how this stuff is remembered. Fast forward, and there's a lot of noises on the other side of this door that I refuse to open up again. I mean, that one time that I opened it up, I saw what I saw with my father, like being totally, what do they call that in wrestling? He was pinned. He was pinned by this giant guy. So I'm surprised he actually got out of that situation and ended up out on the patio where he was shot point blank as the guy left. There was blood smeared on the hallway, and the smell. Oh, the smell. Oh, and the smoke detector too, going off too. That was an interesting addition to it. But the smell of freshly fired gunpowder will never leave my mind. It's the worst thing you could ever experience in your life. So you've got to turn it into something positive, or it will eat you from the inside out. So have compassion for anybody that goes through this. Don't be one of those political zealots that turns this into a gun control issue. Because I will tell you, as a childhood survivor of gun violence, I firmly believe in the Second Amendment, and I firmly believe in the right to protect ourselves from the situation I went through in my life. So don't come at me with gun control and banning assault rifles or any of that other nonsense and bullshit that people that have no idea what they're talking about will spout off at a moment's notice instead of looking at the real true facts of what's going on. Yes, I'm on a rant right now because I'm sick and tired of hearing about gun control being the solution. That wouldn't have saved anything. Wouldn't have saved my family. What would have saved my family is if my father's firearms were still in the house. They somehow disappeared for some weird reason. I believe the guy cased our house and disarmed us prior to his escapade. And just the fact that, I don't want to turn this into a political statement. This is about learning about who I am and what drives me. And it's important for you to understand that really was an experience that formed me into who I am today. I'm totally off track right now in what it is I want to share with you. Aside from that, really rattled me. And I had a lot of questions, tons of questions. But okay, back on track. So there's a lot of sounds on the other side of the bedroom door, and I'm biding my time. Is that the saying? And waiting to see what's going to unfold. I'm hearing all sorts of scuffling sounds, more gunshots, and then I hear somebody running down the hallway. I believe it was him running down the hallway. I think he was chasing my father, actually, now that I come to think of it. I never looked at the police report or any of the photos or anything like that. Didn't need to, although some part of me would like to, just to make it more real. So, because most of my experience was in a bedroom with a closed door, for the most part, aside from the few glances I got of what was going on. At a certain point, it seemed like, okay, this is a good time for me to make my escape. I do remember hearing a car pull up outside, and it was like literally within minutes of the perpetrator leaving, I heard a car pull up. So logically, I was like, well, that must be his getaway car. The best I can do right now is maybe take a glance out the window and get an idea of what kind of car he's getting into so that I can share it with the authorities so that they can track this guy down. I looked out my window and lo and behold, it was the cops pulling up, which was really weird because like he had just left the house and yet he still eluded the authorities. Don't get me started on the incompetence of law enforcement. It tends to be a very after the fact agency. It's not very good at preventing crime. It's very good at investigating crime and putting together cases to try in court and everything else. But so the moment I saw the police car pull up, I was like, well, I'm home free, right? So I left my bedroom. And as the strangest thing, because I knew that was like the sprint of my life, I got this tunnel vision. It's just like literally I came out of the bedroom and I was like, it went boom. And I was like looking out of a hole about that big, walking down, not walking, I was running down the hallway. And I heard somebody asking for help. Somebody was saying, help, help me, please, God, help me. In my mind, it's my mother. Whew. Thank God, Mom is still alive. Of course, I didn't know my father was dead either. I didn't believe either one of them were deceased at that point. I just remembered hearing that person crying for help as I'm running down through that tunnel vision, running down the hallway, and then all I see is a doorknob in the center of that tunnel vision. And I go to open the doorknob, and it's the front door of the house, of course. And the first thing that I got immediately after that was, boom, literally like 3 or 4 9mm were pointing at me like this from the police officers. They didn't know who was coming out of that front door. And thank God they were not cowards that reacted. They stayed level-headed. They were smart about the decision not to pull the trigger. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. They pulled me aside. I ended up going over to my neighbor's house. And the whole time, I'm confident that my parents are still alive. I can feel it, like in my bones. It was just the oddest sensation that I knew they were still here. Of course, later I got the worst news of my life from my grandfather. So it was my parents and my grandmother that passed away. The person crying for help happened to be my grandmother. I confused her for my mother in a vain attempt to hope for the best outcome, that my mother was still alive, that my father was still alive. Lo and behold, my grandfather, who later drank himself to death because he couldn't save. He was a veteran from World War II. He was a sniper, and he had a lot of skeletons in his closet, a lot of things that he was going to share with me when I was older, but he never did. And in this scenario, as a soldier, he failed. At least that's what he believed. And so he quickly took himself out through drinking in no time at all. But that day, he had to deliver the worst news that you would ever want to deliver to somebody. So he told me and my sister. And I just remember immediately the first experience, the first feeling I had was complete denial. Absolutely complete and utter denial. No, that can't be. That can't, I know it in my bones that they're still alive. You're lying to me. This is not true. So there was almost a fight to convince me that this was the truth of the matter. And there was a moment there that really hit me hard when I just kind of decided, fuck you, God. You can fucking go to hell. And I just became very jaded, very angry. I was a teenager. I was 13, I believe. was around 93 that it happened. And I became very angry and jaded, and I just shut down. I didn't like the world. I didn't want anything to do with it. I thought it was a cruel, calculating, ruthless place that just really didn't have a whole lot of love for me or the other humans on it. And this is something we need to come to terms with as a society, because we have to be able to see the humanity in each other. That's what leads to these crimes happening. I mean, do you really believe that somebody can shoot children like that without having created some sort of filter? You know, it's well known in the military. Part of your training as a soldier, especially during wartime, like during the Vietnam War, is to denigrate the enemy, to turn them into less than human. Easiest way to do that, obviously, is to come up with some kind of stereotype like gook, and then they're not a human anymore, and then you can easily shoot them. It's also part of, you know, the whole process of war, which is they have to it's almost like a surgery. They have to remove the humanity out of you to turn you into a killing machine. This is what our governments do. These governments that we look up to, that we pray to save us, they're the ones that turn us into killing machines and then send us on the path to go out there and exact revenge on whoever's, you know, not in our interest, not in the interest of the United States, whatever the hell that means. What about my interest? What about your interest? What about the interest of the American people? Is that ever a factor? No, it's always something else. I'm off track here. That was an awful experience where I really hit up against denial. And so in that moment, I kind of made this decision to do whatever it took to get to the bottom of what happened to me. I had to make sense of the insanity that I had just witnessed. I had to. It was not even a choice. First place I started was obviously the Catholic Church, where I was raised. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I went through baptism. I didn't do confirmation because by that point I had had enough of organized religion. I've had enough of organizations, period. Governments, religions, you name it. They all need to go, and we need to stand on our own 2 feet, and we need to look at each other, love each other, and cooperate in creating an amazing world. Now, more and more people are literally falling to the wayside nowadays. Now you have AI replacing humans, and then you had manufacturing replacing humans, and it's just getting harder and harder to be an honest human being on this planet. You have to be, you know, whatever it is that creates, you know, 100 billion dollar billionaires. I mean, I can't even fathom that number as an individual, like really. But again, I digress. So I was on a mission to make sense of this. I asked all the right questions. Why did this happen to me? What's going on here? I asked the priests. I asked the other parishioners. And everybody seemed to have the same answer, which is you don't question God. You don't question this stuff. You just obey. You just fall in line. You do what you're told. And that's it. That's the end of the story. God's plan is beyond your comprehension. And I was just like, this is bullshit. I don't think so. So that was my first rebellion, was against the Catholic Church. And I said, no more. My second rebellion was against pretty much the status quo in the world. You know, it was like, here I am, a freshman. Yeah. Figure, go try that one out. See what that's like to be a freshman in high school the year after you survived a triple homicide. Not a fun time. No. I was very, very introverted. And if you know, children can be cruel in school. I don't know why. I believe it's a survival mechanism, right? Kill or be killed. So basically attack or be attacked, insult or be insulted, I guess. But I had a lot of people making fun of me for being so introverted. I remember like literally like the first week of school, this girl turned around in French class. God, Brandis, I think her name was. I can't remember. She looked at me and she said, "You look like a Martian." Wow, nice to meet you too. It was just like so rude and so just unexpected, right? So I went through my traumas, but then there were a few shining lights in my life. Sophomore year, I met my best friend Michael Rivera, and he brought me into the fold of his motley crew. We'll just call it that. Dan, Ian, Nick, Frankie, Josh. I can still remember everybody's name, but we were just kind of like all the, I don't know. It was an interesting dichotomy, to say the least. But I had a place to call home. You know, it was very rewarding. And if you happen to be watching this, Mike, know that you're loved and appreciated by me, because you extended a kind hand when other people were making fun of me and making an already impossible life even more impossible. So I am forever grateful for your generous spirit and heart in doing that for me. So my second rebellion happened to be, well, I was very introverted. I finally started to open up in junior year. Senior year was pretty awesome. I made friends with Ron Daggs, who ended up dying of cancer. I believe it was leukemia. And he really taught me a lot about life, because this dude had a death sentence, but he lived. He lived like nobody else's business. It was a beautiful thing to witness, and just a kind soul. And through him and Mike Rivera, I ended up joining the football team. I went and tried out. Obviously, like my dad, I didn't have the physical prowess. I was a wide receiver in JV for a season, I believe. But then I found my calling was yearbook class, actually photography. So it started with photography. We went to a dark room. Remember those? We used film. We actually developed film. It was such an awesome experience. If you've never done it, it's so amazing when you take a piece of white paper and you put it in this liquid, and slowly but surely it just all comes together. You know, there's something about analog and that experience that you don't get from a digital world. You know, I think technology's great, but is it as great as everyone's making it today? No, it's not. It's not the end all be all. It's a part of being human. It's a part of society, but it's not the end all be all. There's a lot more in the equation of living a thriving and fulfilling life as a human being besides technology. You think we would have learned by now with all the warnings, whether it's Terminator or War Games. Remember War Games? And what were some other ones? Yeah, there's plenty. The Matrix. There's plenty of stories about do not lean too heavy on technology or you're going to be sorry. So if you're one of those people that's praising ChatGPT as the next greatest thing since sliced bread, even sliced bread was a technology thing, but it was through marketing that became a common term that we use in our society. But yeah, so if you're leaning really heavy on that stuff, word of warning, and you heard it here first. So take heed or don't. It's your choice. But know that the consequences, the karma of your choices is very real. God knows what kind of karma I had in a past life to have to go through what I went through this lifetime. You know, life is kind of like a crucible. It molds and shapes you into who you are meant to be. And that's what happened to me. So I'm just so off track here. Let me show you some pictures and let's get into something else here. There we go. And again, me emoting probably, then I will let you have it. Yeah, that is my amazing mother and father, the greatest human beings I've ever known in my life. Well, they're in a very small class of their own. My father was a BLM manager in California. He was responsible for a large piece of that state and taking care of it as a steward for the federal government. And so nature was a big part of my upbringing. That's my mother with my father, obviously. She was a amazing woman. I mean, she brought horses and riding into our life. My father brought farming into our life and forestry. And we got a lot of, between the two of them, we were immersed in nature often and frequently. Camping trips every weekend, hiking trips. It was truly a phenomenal experience. And of course, we got to grow up on a small farm. You know, we had a goat, and no, we didn't have a goat. We had a cow. We had one of those one of the Jersey cows, the black and white ones, the classic ones. And we had horses, 3 horses. We had rabbits and chickens. Rudy the rooster was the meanest SOB I ever encountered, man. You go into the chicken coop and he would just be like, rah, 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 rah. I mean, you had to bring a baseball bat with you just to fend him off. I mean, he was so crazy. I mean, I have a million stories, but don't want to spend forever and hours on here regaling you in my life, but I do want to share a part of who I am, and that's why I'm doing this today. Okay, so the cow's name was Barney. My mom got him through some bartering or something. I'm not sure exactly how. Anyway, we raised him. We fed him and we took care of him until one day I came home. It was hot. I remember, so hot, summertime in Bakersfield, California, and 100+ degrees. So hot. I came home and I noticed that Barney was gone. He wasn't in his pen next to the horses. And I was a little concerned. I liked Barney. I thought he was a cute cow. We got to know each other, sort of, somewhat, as much as you can get to know a cow. They're not the most intelligent creatures, to be honest. But I had formed a bond. We all did. But then, remember, it's summertime, 100+ degrees. I thought, oh, I need a popsicle. So I took myself into the garage to grab a popsicle out of our reach-in freezer, right? The big ones, you know, the big ones with the lid, reach-in freezer. I opened up the freezer to get the popsicles, and it's nothing but beef. As far as the eye can see, from wall to wall, full of beef. And here's the crux, right? Oh, I don't know why to this day. I guess that's how they do it when you hire a butcher to butcher your own livestock. But the dude put the name Barney on each and every package of ground beef, steaks, ribs, you name it. It all was labeled Barney. I cried so bad. I don't know what came over me, but I just remember wailing as I went in and it said, "Mom, why is the freezer full of Barney?" She obviously had to, I don't know if she ever explained to me what exactly happened. Let me get rid of this sun though, real quick. This is great. I am really thoroughly enjoying this. It's very cathartic to be able to share this experience with somebody. It's been a while. So that's a little bit of tidbit, right? I was a pyro. I love my fire. Hey, I was a young boy. What do you expect? Young boys love to blow things up. They love to burn things. So, you got to just give them a safe arena to do that so they don't turn into people like me that end up setting trees on fire at campgrounds. Yeah, I did. They put it out, but it was bad. I set my desk on school, and I set my desk on fire in 7th grade. Not on purpose. Okay, guys, this stuff isn't on purpose. It's just not understanding what you're playing with and understanding the consequences of what you're doing. If you want to hear the whole story, then send me a message or drop a comment, and I'll circle back with the story, because I got plenty. Like I told you, I had a very unique life growing up, immersed in nature, outdoors often, very wholesome upbringing, as wholesome as you could be in Bakersfield, California. Even today, you might notice my accent because Bakersfield is known as the Nashville of the West. We've birthed Buck Owens, Dwight Yoakam. He does this great song. You got to look it up. It's called "On the Streets of Bakersfield." I don't know you, but I don't like you. On the streets of Bakersfield. Anyway, yes, we have our own unique country accent in Bakersfield. And you might catch it every now and then. I got a little bit of a twang going on there. I say things like hill instead of hill. Did you catch it? It took me forever to even hear the difference between the two. Anyway, now I moved up to Fresno, Madera. That's where my father's parents lived, who I ended up going to live with. But earlier on, I had mentioned how we came with a lot of money and, an estate. So there was terrible infighting within my family between my mother's side and my father's side of the family, as who was going to have custody of me and everything else. And yeah, I'm not going to get into details of that, but it really much destroyed my extended family. It was pretty bad. And there was one person that was really leading the charge in the division, who someday I'm going to have to find some forgiveness for her. But right now, there's just a whole lot of hurt around her misdeeds and deception. I'm sure it wasn't willful or on purpose. God forbid if it was. My brother's sister calculated this, then there's a special place for you in hell. But if not, which is what my heart wants to say, that it just kind of happened, then yeah, that's awful. But that's something that is natural in these experiences, is a fractured family being the outcome. So right, I lost my immediate family and then my extended family. I had my sister, who is my heart and soul. I love her so much. Let me show you some pictures here real quick, please. That's my parents on on one of those booze cruises in the Caribbean, having the time of their life. They just really, this was not too long before what happened, actually. Okay. Oh, that's my sister right there on her horse. I forget the name of that horse. Is that it might have been the pony. I don't think so. We had a pony, Cece, and we had a cart too. I learned how to drive a pony cart, Gee, ha. A lot of awesome experiences growing up in the country. You got to get out there if you haven't been. The city is not everything. I'm talking to you city people. If you live in New York City or Los Angeles or San Francisco, it's not the center of the universe. Yes, you've got conveniences all around, but you don't have nature, not to the degree that we did. And, I also find that a lot of city people, they kind of turn their backs on nature. It becomes kind of, dare I say, a little bit of a perversion that happens in the city when you get that disconnected from nature. I'll never forget, I was in New York City and it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. And I suddenly noticed I was in almost pitch black, not pitch black, but I was in darkness. And my brain was kind of like short circuiting because it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon and there wasn't a drop of sunlight around. It's like I was at the bottom of a canyon. I don't know if anybody can relate. So to this day, I really have zero interest in visiting New York City. Los Angeles is a sprawling mess, but just imagine for a second, since I brought up the subject of nature, if we took Central Park and removed it from New York City, just imagine the chaos. Imagine how unhealthy that environment would be. You can really appreciate nature when you see how essential parks are in an urban setting, because that's, for a lot of people, that's as close as they can get to nature. Breaks my heart that they never got to go camping or to go for a hike out in the country, especially if you're like on the East Coast where everything seems to be private. Out west, we have a lot of BLM land, like my dad managed, that you can pretty much do anything you want on. It's really nice. When I came out here, when I was in New England in 2019, I just saw private property in Maine, of all places. Like, dude, it's not that heavily populated that every piece of land needs to be owned by somebody and fenced off, and you can't go on this. Oh boy, I am all over the place, and I trust that you're still with me learning about this crazy dude, Keith, and what qualifies. I haven't even got to what qualifies me. I've just been going off on my crazy story, right? So, and that's the bonus. So we can skip that, which is I am the childhood survivor of a triple homicide. And if that doesn't qualify me to be an expert on the fundamentals of being human, then I don't know what does. Because a lot of being human is dealing with trauma, is dealing with setbacks, is dealing with insecurities, is dealing with the unknown, right? How unknown do you think it felt for this 13-year-old boy in 1993, 92, I forget. Yeah, it's pretty damn unknown. I mean, to the point where I was in denial for a while there. I was like, no, they're still alive. I'm not listening to you. Okay. What else do we have? Got some more pictures here, right? Excellent. There's my pride and joy. My very first nephew. And the very, really, wow. I haven't even considered that. That is the first second generation our family has had. Yeah. I mean, it's not a very big extended family, but Andrea is leading the way in giving birth to my amazing nipote, Luca. Nephew in Italian is nipote. And obviously with a beautiful name like Luca, I love it. Silenzio Bruno. If you saw the movie Luca, watch it. It's a great, great movie. And it's got some Italian in it too. Can't go wrong with Italian. All right, what else? Is there anything else here? Oh, there's the infamous one. That is my sister with me in her hand. Optical illusion at Joshua Tree. You can't really see her face that much, but that's her, my amazing sister, the mother of my nephew, Luca. Okay, put those away. Tell you about me afterwards. So fast forward, I went to a private Catholic school, which was a really good foundation to have. I was educated in a superior way to public education, exposed to things that were not taught in public school. It was quite amazing. Even though I was in a Catholic high school, I took a senior year. It was Religions of the World, I believe, was the name of the course. And amazing that at a Catholic high school, you actually have that option to study other religions. So I got to dive into all the diversity of belief systems. That's all they are, folks. That's all religion is a belief system. And just because, what is it? How many Christians are there? 200 million? Billion? No, it's not 200 billion. 200 million maybe? Just because 200 million people believe the same thing doesn't mean it's not a belief system. That's all it is. At the end of the day, it's a belief system. And when you choose to believe what the system believes or what that organization believes, you become a member of that organization. Nothing wrong. Everyone always gets all upset when I say things that might be going against the status quo because we're so lost and confused these days that we will grab hold to anything known that is solid in our life just for a moment of peace and a moment of comfort, like, oh, this is familiar. I can hold on to this piece of life. Thank God. Anyway, that's that. I went to Catholic high school, and then afterwards, I quickly realized, well, first, my first passion was film. I wanted to be a special effects, and then I decided, hey, go for the head honcho position and go for director. Why not? You know, be a Steven Spielberg or a George Lucas. But my real passion was the special effects, and I'm not sure quite what it was, other than the ability to tell a story that wasn't necessarily in reality. I don't know. There's something there. The potential of science fiction is so grand. You know, if you happen to notice lately, there's kind of been a what's the word? I'm just going to say a lack of science fiction lately. That, yeah, I miss it. You know, Star Wars was as popular as it was in the 70s because we were in such a dark place as a whole, as a society. The Vietnam War and the civil rights and women's rights too, I think. And there was a whole lot of upheaval. A lot of people liken today to the second coming of the 60s, right? And all that radical time, all that upheaval when things were really moving in crazy directions and reorganizing themselves like never before. So that's what made Star Wars as popular as it is today. Was it brought hope. I think that was A New Hope was the name of the first Star Wars movie. So how cool is that? All right. So then I quickly decided that I didn't want anything to do with Hollywood. I actually I did my associates in college, did my 2 years, more like 3 years. I don't know anybody that actually does it in the time frame that they're given, but yeah, I bounced around. I learned a lot. It was great exposure to great things like anthropology, economic history was a good one. Yeah, a lot of great stuff. But all in all, I really could care less about the little piece of paper that says I'm a smart person that knows things. You know, that's the big selling point these days is, here, you'll get a little piece of paper that will let you get in certain doors, that'll get you into certain interviews. I could care less, you know. This is part of the sickness of our society. There's brilliant and intelligent people everywhere. Some of our most brilliant and most intelligent people, some of our most successful people never even went to university, never even got a degree. So what does that tell you? Meanwhile, you've got people like George W. Bush, who's a Yale graduate, I think it is. Have you seen this guy talk? He's a bumbling idiot for the most part. Fool me once, fool me again. A fool man good at fool. Something like that. That was his little thing that was made famous. Anyway, so I went to college. I went to junior college in the Sierra Nevada foothills. I got into caving, which was so awesome. Really enjoyed that. I got to go rock climbing and caving with Michael. Oh, I forget. Blue? No, it's not Blue. Steele. Mike Steele was my introduction into rock climbing and caving. Awesome dude. I got to spend a whole summer with him as a ranger for the Bureau of Land Management. I think it was freshman year. And truly fulfilling experience that allowed me to remember my dad and all those precious moments that I got to spend with him. Constantly adjusting this light because it's always yeah, and there's my roommate wanting the keys, so I guess she needed them right now. Who knows? Anyway, so then I went to junior college in the Sierra Nevada foothills, Sonora, Colombia. Awesome place to visit if you've never been. Lots of gold mining history there. And then I ended up in Los Angeles, of course, because that's where the film industry is. And that's where Hollywood is. And so I've been told, and everyone else has been told, if you want to be in movies, then you need to go to Hollywood because that's the epicenter where it all happens. And so I did that, even though that's not necessarily true. There's movies made all around the world. Vancouver makes quite a bit of movies. I believe England, like London, or not London, I don't know. Somewhere in England makes lots of movies too. That all the Star Wars were made over there. We got Bollywood, in India. Anyway, so I ended up in Los Angeles, the least favorite city I can ever come up with. It's even I dislike it even more than New York City. I don't know why. It's just it's very unorganized. It's not like there was ever a plan in place, and it certainly wasn't limited by geography. But you didn't come on here to hear my opinion of Los Angeles. What I ended up doing is I went to USC for a summer program in film production, and that allowed me exposure into the film industry and into Hollywood. I got to work as a grip on some things, and I actually made some movies and really got immersed in the whole culture of Hollywood. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, you hear it today, the whole thing about like the satanic cabals and this and that. There is something rotten in Hollywood. That's the best way I can describe it. I ended up getting this book called A Pound of Flesh that really laid out how the game works in Hollywood, how the schmoozing works. And you can see how Me Too became so easily pervasive in that culture because it was a very much a trading for favors kind of culture in Hollywood. Still is, maybe. I don't know. I didn't want anything to do with it. It certainly had nothing to do with talent, nothing to do with creativity, nothing to do with really like making a difference in the world, which if we back up, my original intention and inspiration behind getting into movies was I recognized something that impacted the collective consciousness as a whole in a very radical sort of way. Movies move society forward. They can do a lot of impact in a single punch, right? So that was a big draw for me to get into making movies. Of course, I got to Hollywood, and the last thing on Hollywood's mind is making a difference in the world in a real sort of way. They have all the agendas to, make a difference in the world, but it's all paper mache. There's not underneath it all. The truth is, it's just a whole lot of greed, a whole lot of manipulation. Yeah, all you got to do is watch. Oh, it's such a good show too. It's a while ago on HBO. Entourage. Watch Entourage if you want to firsthand experience of Hollywood and how it operates. Anyway, I got a taste of that. I was out of town. I was like, heck no. So I fell back on plan B. Plan B happened to be why I have these slides up over here. And that is to get into culinary arts. I figured, hey, my grandmother, my noni, was the most amazing Italian cook. And I learned so much from her. And it just felt so good, that exchange of love that comes from food, that I figured this could be something that I could do for the rest of my life. And I ended up going to my absolute favorite city in North America, a gem of a city, and that is Vancouver, British Columbia. And I lived there in Kitsilano, and went to De Bruyne International Hotel and Culinary Institute, something like that. Ended up getting bought out by Art Institute after I graduated, like a couple years after I graduated. Anyway, it was a really interesting program. My chef instructor was Julian Bond, James Bond. He was British too, which was funny. Anyway, learned a lot of great stuff. Chef Sorensen, if you're watching this, really turned me on to some interesting things. Want a little story? Since I'm on here and we're just going long anyway, let's do it. So one of his story, now that's a story about him. That has nothing to do with me. You're here to learn about me. So culinary arts, that was my foray. I went deep into the culinary arts and went to Vancouver, British Columbia. This thing always gets turned around. There we go. That's my tortelli di zucca. So I went to classical French culinary school in Vancouver, British Columbia. I actually tried to, believe it or not, I tried to commute across an international border for a month. I was not allowed to work in Canada, and I certainly didn't try to break the law to make it happen. So I found myself a job in Blaine, Washington at a country club. And I literally crossed an international border twice a day to go to work. Well, that quickly burnt itself out. Yeah, you get searched one too many times and you're like, that's it, I had enough. I got to know pretty much every immigration officer on the Canadian border and the American border. It was a lot of fun, but not sustainable in any sense of the meaning. So I ended up, what did I do? I left. No, I went to Seattle. I cooked in some of the most amazing restaurants there in Seattle. Seattle was an amazing city back in the day. It seems to have kind of turned into a little craziness now. I don't know. It's a unique creature, kind of like Portland and kind of like San Francisco. I have a love-hate relationship with those ultra-liberal cities. Anyway, I'm in Seattle. I lived there for, I would say, about a year. It was off and on in between my semesters in Vancouver at the culinary school. I met my first girlfriend, Carrie Kratzer, if you're watching, was an amazing woman that really showed me what it means to be in a relationship. And she showed me some parts of myself that I am forever grateful to her for helping me uncover. Really embarrassing things too. Like when we broke up was an absolute debacle. I was getting ready. So Seattle, we lived there, and then we pretty much got sick of the weather. If you've never been to Seattle, it is a unique experience in and of itself. It's a very overcast climate. It's like tucked up in Puget Sound. Vancouver's farther out. It's closer to the Pacific Ocean, and it has Vancouver Island that blocks a whole lot of rain. There's actually a little segment. Oh man, I don't want to give this secret away. Although I'm sure if you know anything about British Columbia and Vancouver, you might have heard of this. There's a little segment of coastline north of Vancouver. It's called the Sunshine Coast because it gets so much sun because of Vancouver Island blocking it. So if you can imagine, none of that In fact, the exact opposite is Seattle. You have Puget Sound that literally funnels all the moisture, all the rain, all the clouds past Olympia National Park, which is like a rainforest, and then boom, right into Seattle. So it was overcast 99% of the time. And it did this weird thing. I called it spitting. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like somebody that talks and when they spit, when they talk, that's what it was like in Seattle all the time. It's like, it's like somebody spitting on you all the time. It wasn't raining and it wasn't dry. It was like this weird in the middle thing. And I knew I was in for trouble because I'll never forget the first time we drove into Seattle, I saw a dude jogging in jogging clothes, you know, with the bandana and everything, right? He looked like what you would see a jogger doing on a warm, sunny day, but it was raining. And the guy was not fazed one bit. I was like, wow, we're in for a treat here. If they're not even affected by the rain, then they must have become really numb to all this rain, because it would bother me to run and jog in the rain. But this guy was loving it. And that was so pretty much we burnt out our Seattle experience, and we ended up looking at the map and going, well, how far can we get from this crappy weather? And it pointed us to Florida, where I am today, and ended up in Naples, Florida. And I apologize in advance for anybody that lives in Naples. Of course, this is going back to 2002. It might have changed since then. But back in 2002, if you went on the internet, it basically talked about this jet set, metropolitan, wealthy, on the Gulf of Mexico, amazing place to be, Naples, Florida, right? So I get there, and first thing I see is, well, I didn't really see it because we don't have tumbleweeds here in Florida. We have those in California, though. I grew up with tumbleweeds. I literally saw a tumbleweed like rolling down Fifth Avenue. It was such a sleeperville. It was so dead of a city, if you want to even call it a city. I'm going to go with a town more. So anyway, so we ended up there in Naples, Florida. And I'm like giving you a line by line of my whole life here. So enjoy it. I hope you're still on here. And after that, and my horrible breakup with Carrie, where I was literally crying like a baby in the back seat, calling her things like, you bitch, you're gonna leave me, wah, wah, wah. It was really, I mean, unbecoming to say the least. But hey, I'm Aquarius, and I am the most honest air sign, so I have nothing to hide anymore. I'm done hiding. Can you relate to all the hiding we do as human beings, trying to protect ourselves from these embarrassing moments in our life, instead of being like, hey, I shit my pants? Nobody can relate to that. I peed my pants. I cried like a baby when I broke up with my girlfriend. I mean, we're humans and we can all relate. That brings us closer together. This whole protecting ourselves and pretending like we're perfect. Oh, I'm perfect. Is unbecoming of a human being. It's our flaws that make us great. Watch the Green Lantern and you'll learn what it means to be human. It's great in there. It's basically the story that in the universe, there's one species that all the other aliens look up to, and that's humans, because they have so much potential and so much darkness in them simultaneously. It's an amazing thing. So look, your vulnerabilities are strengths, folk. Your weaknesses are your greatest strengths. So don't hide from them. Get to know them. Seek them out. Discover them. A man has got to know his limitations. So do that. Fast forward, and I'm in Florida, and I broke up with my first girlfriend, and now, well, yeah, my first long-term girlfriend. I had another before that I ought to mention why I'm on here, but I won't say her name. She knows who she is. She was really kind of like probably my first relationship. I will definitely give her credit for that. it was an odd situation, but definitely my first relationship with another human being. I ended up hooking up with a girl, couple girls in college. Didn't really turn into much, but this was more a more mature relationship for me, and I'm backtracking. So here I am breaking up with my long-term girlfriend in Florida, and I ended up deciding, okay, if it's to be, this is the time. And it was all about how am I going to distinguish myself as a chef? Because please share this with anybody that is considering going into the hospitality industry. Don't do it. It will eat you alive. You will be terribly, well, I don't know if that's so fair to say, because I don't want to discourage people from following their heart and believing they can do anything and create anything. But there's a certain amount of realism that goes into things, especially, the culinary arts. You see Gordon Ramsay. Everybody wants to be Gordon Ramsay. That's like liking football and wanting to be an NFL player or even a star player in the NFL. Just a player in the NFL is a rare opportunity. It's a very small group of all the people here in America. And then to be at the top is an even smaller group. So yeah, get real if you think you're going to be Gordon Ramsay right off the bat. I'm not saying you can't make it happen. I'm just saying you need to understand the industry for what it is. You're going to get underpaid and overworked, guaranteed. I wanted to distinguish myself. I wanted to elevate my career. I wanted to make more money, for crying out loud. It's so hard to make a decent living in this modern world, especially here in America, unless you're some tech this or tech that, programmer this, programmer that, which I don't know. I have to use my hands. That's what I really drew me to special effects in the beginning, and then later into cooking, was to be able to use my hands. I didn't want to have to think all the time and do something very analytical. So that's why I chose that. Anyway, I wanted to distinguish myself in my industry as a chef. I decided to follow my heart, and because I had the privilege of my parents sacrificing their lives and allowing me to have a better life with a trust fund and a nice bit of money, I decided to go to Italy to study authentic regional Italian cuisine. That's where I learned tortelli di zucca. It's a classic dish from Emilia-Romagna, which is a region in Italy. There's like 20 regions. You can look at them like states. And I got to study pretty much all of them, the major ones for sure, and some of the minor ones. And wow, holy geez, if you haven't immersed yourself in Europe and European culture, you're missing out as an American. It was probably the greatest, up to that point, the greatest eye-opening experience of my life was immersing myself in a foreign culture that was completely different than what I was used to. I was so scared when I first went. I was so alone. Luckily, I had relatives, cousins from our extended family. So I wasn't completely alone, thank God. But I was, for the most part, very much alone as an American there. And it was tough. I remember, going into the experience, I took a month of Berlitz Italian courses to prepare myself, right? I mean, a whole month, by then you should be able to speak Italian, right? No. I got to Italy and I was just bumbling all over the place. And I kind of got, my introversion came back to an extreme degree, and I ended up kind of like imploding on myself. And I got very frustrated. And I remember it was probably a month in that I was there. It was a whole year that I was in Italy. A month in that I kind of had like this meltdown, and I was just like pounding my fist on the desk. I was like, okay, God, you're going to have to do something. We need a miracle here, because I cannot do this for another, what is it, 10, 11 months? Another 11 months. I need to be able to speak and understand Italian. You have no idea, unless you've ever ventured into learning a secondary language, the work, especially as an adult. You know, it's so great, I imagine, to learn a second language as a child, because it just becomes part of who you are. As an adult, it's challenging. For that first month, I quite literally was hearing Italian, translating it into English, understanding it, formulating a response in English, translating that in Italian, and then speaking it. Every interaction had like 18 steps to it. It was absolutely exhausting. And at that point, I had reached my breaking point. I was like, something has got to give here. I cannot do this one more day. And that night, I had a dream in Italian. I woke up the next morning and it was like the filters had been removed. I didn't need to translate the Italian into English to understand it. It was like I was getting a direct understanding. I could understand Italian. And when I opened my mouth to respond to people, Italian came out. And I was just like dumbfounded. How did this happen? Right? I've had a series of experiences in my life that has inspired me to go deeper. What is it about being human? Like, what are these things that we experience in our life? What's really going on behind the scenes? Nobody has a clue. And if you meet somebody that's like, oh, I figured it all out, look them straight in the eyes and say, you're full of shit. And Keith says so. Because it's true. One of my best tests to find out how present a person really is, how much presence they have, how much experience they have with the present moment and self-awareness, is I listen to their firsthand experience of it. And I gather from that where they're at in their process. Because somebody that's just started out or doesn't really do a lot of personal growth, self-development, meditation on a regular basis, they're going to say things like, yeah, I'm present. Oh, yeah, I know the present moment. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm self-aware. Of course. That's, to me right there, a red flag that they're, number one, not self-aware. Because a self-aware person is aware of how unaware they are. I know, it's a tongue twister. I'll let you sit with that one for a minute. Aware person is aware, a self-aware person is aware of how unaware they are. So when I hear people say things like, oh, I have no idea what life is all about, I'm just scratching the surface. It seems like the more self-aware I become, the less I know, the less I understand. People that say that, right there, I know without a doubt they have a certain level of self-awareness. They're operating from a certain level of self-awareness. So, yeah. The fakers, the posers, they're the ones that walk around and just rolls off their tongue. Yeah, I'm self-aware. And they don't really get fully what it means to be self-aware. So here we are. I'm in Italy, totally immersed in a foreign culture. Wow, amazing. I could go into the depths of what I learned from Italy, but bottom line, simply put, I learned a harmony with life that Americans have yet to evolve into, grow into, or discover. If you imagine, Europe's been around a lot longer than the New World. They've gone through a lot more trauma. They've gone through a lot more war. They've gone through a lot more of the stuff that you kind of go through and then say, I'm done. I'm done with that. I've had enough World War. We're done. And then something evolves out of that. And it's a harmony and a peace with the natural world and the surrounding world. And if you've ever been to Italy, it has that flavor to it, that air to it. I can't describe it. It's like the the towns are like melting into the countryside and into nature. And there's just this beautiful um, natural flow to life. Now, obviously, Italy is a diverse place. So you end up in places like where my cousin lived, which is Milan, and that's kind of the equivalent to New York City. It's a very metropolitan experience. But even there, I still got the essence of what it meant to be Italian. One thing I never forget was we went to the Cavalli Bar in the Sforza Park of Milan, where they have that big red castle. If you've been there, you know. Mosquitoes are nuts in Milan. Oh my God, I was wearing jeans and they were still getting to me through the jeans. I mean, they were like assassins. They were killer mosquitoes. There's a lot of rice fields around Milan, so that's just a little side note. If you go to Milan, bring the mosquito repellent and 2 pairs of jeans minimum. Anyway, I still got the essence of Italy, even in the big city. We went to this bar, the Cavalli Bar, in the Sforza Castle Park or whatever, and we sat down. And before I knew it, I was like sitting next to like okay, I'm exaggerating here. There's my disclaimer. I'm sitting next to the CEO of Ferrari and the CEO of Barilla Pasta. It might as well have been, because I was engaging in conversation with some very successful, very wealthy business owners, and we were just chatting like 2 human beings. And it was almost like, work's over, I'm going to hang up the work hat and I'm just going to be a human being and I'm going to interact with you. It's probably like one of the greatest things I got from living in Italy is like how to be a human, how to interact. They do things like in most of the small towns in Italy, like the one where my school was, Iesi, near Ancona. They have this tradition. It's wonderful. It's called passeggiata. And every evening, the whole town comes out right about the time the sun is about to set. It's that beautiful golden hour that photographers love. Everybody comes out and they do a passeggiata. They do like an afternoon stroll down the main street. It's your opportunity to reconnect with your friends and neighbors and to chiacchiare, to do a little gossiping about who's dating who and who's doing what to what. And, you know, Italians love their drama, okay? It's a great time for the kids to get together, for you to woo the girls and ask them out on dates. It's just amazing to see the entire community, the entire town comes out in the evening. It's called passeggiata. So I'm going to be the first one to say we need more passeggiatas here in America. Okay. What else did I learn? Yeah, that whole idea that you could be sitting next to the most important person in Italy and they're treating you like they're equal. I don't see that here in America. I see major division and major like siloing is the business term, where something gets isolated, right? Because you try to hang out with wealthy, successful business people here, it doesn't go so well, at least in my experience. They're very standoffish. They definitely don't hang out with people beneath them. Of course, I'm generalizing here, folks, so don't take me wrong when I say this. This is a generalization about American culture. The divisions are more defined here. In Italy, regardless of race, income, religion, people just seem to mesh well. And it's always around food, too. So maybe that's the secret, right? That's part of why I became a chef, too, was just seeing the power of food when it comes to bringing people together, breaking bread, and healing people as a vehicle for expressing love from one human being to the other. Our attitude towards food here in the United States is deplorable. That's all I'm going to say. It's just awful. We let big ag get away with poisoning our entire food system, and then we eat Doritos and Pepsi and Taco Bell, and we call it a day. And we never really strive to have the quality of food they have in Europe, the quality of food they have in Italy. And I'm not talking price wise. It's not a matter of it being more expensive. It's a matter of us valuing that more, valuing local farm produce, right? I'm on another rant. This is about getting to know Keith. By now, you should get to know me good enough. All right, quickly. How many hours? Oh, an hour and 30 minutes. That's me on the line making omelets at O Palm Beach Resort and Spa. Look at that young devil with his copper saute pan. This picture right here was from, what's the name of it? It's long gone. It was the alternative to New Times, City Spark, City Watch, something like that. Anyway, they did a most attractive professionals under 40 or under 30 thing, and I was showcased in that, so I'm pretty proud of that. I'm a pretty good looking guy, don't mind saying it. Got a big schnoz, but hey, can't all be perfect. All right, moving on. Is there anything else under here? Me in a mask, and you can't see it because I'm hiding that thing. Self-care, when it became a really big thing during the whole shutdown. All right, we're done with that. What else do I have to show you? You want to know why I'm qualified, probably, and that was supposed to be the whole thing here, and I never really got around to it. Maybe an hour and a half in, if you're still here, this might be a great time to please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from. Share your expertise, or just share something about yourself, like I'm doing today. There's nothing really formal about this, but I would like to know if you're watching the replay. Drop a hashtag replay down below. Hashtag optional. But that way I know who's on here live and who's been on the replay, and I can circle back and make sure those that watch the replay got the questions they had answered, even though this is all about me. Maybe you have some questions about what qualifies me to be teaching you how to be your true self. So if you haven't heard all that stuff, let's dive into it. And let's be quick about this. 3 qualifications for being your self-awareness coach. This guy. What makes me qualified? Well, number 1, 15 years of firsthand experience living in the present moment. I was on the fast track. I went to Italy. I came back from Italy. Now I'm in Fort Lauderdale after returning from Italy. And Casa d'Angelo, right? It's a iconic Italian restaurant here in Fort Lauderdale, and was at the top of the Zagat survey, just underneath Outback Steakhouse. Don't even ask me how I felt about that. I came back from Italy and I was determined to get a job in the best Italian restaurant that was around here in Fort Lauderdale. So I ended up going to work for Casa d'Angelo. Guess how much they paid me per week? This is in 2004 maybe? Yeah, farther. 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. I worked at Casa d'Angelo full-time with a culinary degree from a very good classical French culinary school in Vancouver, British Columbia, and some postgraduate work in Italy studying authentic regional Italian cuisine. I got the title of Master Chef. That's what the diploma said. So I'm not going to argue with the diploma. Remember, we're all about external certifications. So According to some external authority, I am a master chef in authentic regional Italian cuisine. So with all of that, guess how much I made? And I'm talking to you, Elia, because I remember you looked at me in the eye. I'm in 20 something years old, and you said, you have the eye of the tiger. And I knew right then and there he's going to take advantage of me. $400 per week, working full time on the line at Casa D'Angelo. Yeah, not very inspiring, especially when you have the expenses of living in the city. You know, it went up and up from there, but still, it's so below a living wage what we pay hospitality workers, and now you have the IRS coming after their tips. Like, come on, these people they give us they give us their heart and soul on a plate, the servers and the cooks and chefs. We need to stop taking them for granted and value them for the amazing contribution they make in our life and pay them accordingly. I would much rather pay a chef that prepared me food, what is it? $2,000 a second is what what's his name? The Amazon dude makes per second. I don't know. I know it's millions of dollars. Anyway, income inequality is our true problem here in the United States. It's not racism, it's income inequality, which affects all races. They're just trying to get you to look over here, don't look over there. Anyway, what qualifies me to train you in self-awareness? Number one, 15 years of firsthand experience living in the present moment. I came back here from Italy. Not long after that, I was introduced to a program that was really kind of one of my first forays into this. I did some meditation beforehand, but I hadn't done a lot of different things. I did look into a lot of stuff, but this really just was a game changer for me. Self-discovery, life mastery, if any of you know it. And it really changed everything for me because it opened me up to being self-aware and to being aware of my firsthand experience. Everything that I teach the people that work with me comes from my own firsthand experience of how consciousness operates, my firsthand experience of the fundamentals of being human. That's where it all comes from. And I've been doing that for 15 years religiously. I'm talking about thousands and thousands of hours of practice as a licensed trainer back in the day, first as a participant, as a licensed trainer back in the day, and then after the fact, starting my own version of self-realization. And that's where we are today. And so I have lots and lots of firsthand experience, which seems to be a qualifying factor when it comes to experts in their fields. The second one that seems to be the qualifying factor is number 2, which is I have worked with hundreds of souls yearning to be free. Obviously as a self-discovery trainer, and then after that as what I call a SEO trainer, self-awareness expert operator, and that has been my pride and joy. In fact, if there was any complaint I had about my career, my profession, my business, it's not having enough people to impact. It's not having enough people that are courageous enough to look at the darkest parts of themselves in order to grow beyond that and into the light of what they truly are capable of. You know, it's very easy to get by in this world being a coward, playing small, and not really doing the hard work of self-exploration and self-awareness and personal responsibility and integrity. Yeah, Integrity is a very, very important principle, fundamental of my work, but certainly of being a human being. You can't be saying one thing and doing another thing. That is just completely out of integrity. And there's just way too much of that going on today. We need to put a stop to it. And it starts here with the self. Hundreds of souls yearning to breathe free. I'm putting together a testimonial clip to share with you from some of my past clients so that you get an idea of what their experience was like working with me. If you really want a copy of that, let me know down below in the comments or in the message area. Would be great. Okay, so number 3. What qualifies? 3 qualifications for being your self-awareness coach. Number 3, I have invested my whole trust fund, my whole 30s, 10 plus years. What does it say? I invested my trust fund, about 200 grand, and 11 years in my 30s, actually started in my 20s, coaching, training myself in what I teach. Yes, tens of thousands of dollars have been invested in better understanding how I operate as a human being. I devoted 11 years. I mean, you could call it a monastic experience. I was quite literally, I cut myself off from my family. So any vestiges of my extended family were completely destroyed by me deciding to follow my own path in life instead of doing what they wanted. You know, the status quo, conformity is a powerful destructive force on your individuality. It can make you never arrive where you're meant to be in life. So anytime you find yourself conforming, settling, just getting by, mediocrity, then red alert, danger, Will Robinson. You're not meant to be mediocre. You're meant to be extraordinary. It's by design. We have a very important purpose to fulfill as a species in the universe, if you believe that. I believe that. I believe the Palladians are watching us right now. I believe see, I'm not that deep into that stuff. It's very complex. And again, it's just a belief system. I know it's horrifying to realize that there's nothing real in life, that it's all just built on beliefs. And they can be gone the next day. Everything. 11 years. So does that explain why I am qualified to be doing what I'm doing? 200 grand, 11 years, 15 years if you include me as a participant in self-discovery before I became a licensed trainer. And then what's next? Want a bonus? Want a bonus? Want a bonus? That's a high voice for me to do. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Oh, I guess that's as far as it goes. All this stuff. Want a bonus? Okay. Bonus time. It's not a bonus because you heard about it before. I overcame being a childhood victim of gun violence using what I teach, using what I have learned through my firsthand experience. I am confident to be able to say to you today, I am no longer a victim to the circumstances in my life. That, my friends, is the ultimate goal in life, is to not be a victim to your circumstances. You heard it here first. I don't care what your story is. I don't care if you don't have a daddy, if you don't have a mommy, if you grew up in a bad environment, if you didn't get an education, if you didn't get this or that or this or this or that, or you were abused in an abusive relationship or whatever, you name it, I'm going to call it a creation. I'm not saying it didn't happen to you. I'm saying that it happened to you, but you have a choice on how you define that experience. As you can see, I have chosen to define my experience as a victim in a very empowering way, to the point where I feel like it's my calling in life. I mean, with all the gun violence, what's going on here? I'm blocking my own face over here. With all the gun violence going on these days, I feel so much calling to bring some level of sanity to the conversation. I am certainly qualified to speak my mind regarding gun violence. So I dare you to shut me down. And I dare you to tell me that I'm wrong about what I'm talking about. Because I know firsthand, unlike most people that are leading the charge to disarm the American public. Not on my watch. Never, ever, ever. Where was I going with that? Yes. So I overcame being a victim of life. I am no longer in the passenger seat. I am in the driver's seat of my life. That's where you want to be. That's where everything makes a difference. You can feel all of it. You don't have to be limited by what society tells you. You don't have to be limited by what your family tells you. You don't have to be limited by anything. In fact, at the end of the day, there's only one person limiting you. That's you. I chose to empower myself using my circumstances in life. Greatest thing that could have ever happened to me was breaking up with Carrie at the train station, crying like a baby, calling her a bitch, and just being, I was an infant in that moment. If I look back from self-awareness, I devolved in an instant into an infant, and it felt like my mother was abandoning me. What an awesome, profound experience that led to more self-awareness. How could that be a bad thing? This is the problem. This is the major problem. When something bad happens to you in life, stop calling it bad. Start looking for the good, because it's there. In every moment, there is duality. There is an upside and a downside. So you fail if you do not take the time to explore the upside of those things that are seemingly just a downside in life. What else am I going to show you today? Is there anything else left to show you? Not really. Those are my qualifications. I see you there, and I love that you're joining me, and I appreciate all the comments, and I look forward to going live same time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here Thursdays on my page, ideally. Please go over and like my page so you can get those notifications. Make sure your notifications are on, etc., etc., etc. And it's been a real true pleasure. I really sincerely expect, don't get me started on the word hope. I sincerely expect that you gained value and a deeper understanding of me as a human being, the guy behind the Found Fun Discovery Method. And like always, the fastest way to get to where you want in life is with a guide who's been there before you. Chances are you've had a traumatic experience in your life that is to this day holding you back. Get in touch with me. I'll show you how to quickly shift that and get yourself back to where you belong in life, which is at the top, as in the driver's seat, fulfilling your purpose. Because the rest of us, we're counting on you, just like you're counting on me. Have a wonderful Thursday afternoon, and I will see you soon.